Welcome back to the Context Coaching Podcast. We are joined today by Coach Paul Trevor, head basketball coach at Stanislaus State University. He'll probably correct me that it's Cal State Stanislaus, but we're going to roll with that for now. Thank you for calling in from Turlock this morning, Coach.
No doubt. We go by Stan State of all things. Like there was a huge branding thing. They were trying to find out what we could identify with. And I don't even know sometimes. It's like Stan State. Everyone's like, what is that? Are you Stanford's little sister, like, or brother? I was like, no, we're Stan State. But it's an interesting thing. We'll get into about Stan State, but I like it. It gives it a short, clean name. Stanislaus is a lot to say, and CSU Stanislaus can take your breath away. So we'll stay with Stan State, definitely.
Love it. All right. Well, now that we've got that ironed out, why don't you take a beat and talk to us about your journey? How did you get to Stan State? What was the process for you getting your first job when you started this whole endeavor 25 years ago? And what were the steps along the way that led to where you are now?
Oh, wow. Okay. This could be a long journey here. I was at the Archie Williams High School, which is formerly known as Drake High School, working for Doug Donnellan, and I was the energy guy. I was like the energy young guy. We went to a state title, lost to Lincoln Prep down there. They were pretty good in San Diego. And then the next year we lost to Cappuccino, and I was like, I really like this coaching thing. I can motivate people. People relate to me. I really love teaching defense. That was my whole thing. Is like I was a defensive guy. Learned from guys like Bud Presley coming to camp, and guys like Pat Sandel and Steve Lavin and all these guys, Jimmy Sy, all these legendary kind of older dudes. And I became a defensive guy. And that was my deal. And so I went up to Sonoma State University back when they were the Northern California Athletic Conference, NCAC. You know a little bit about that. And we were non-scholarship. It was I worked for Pat Fiscaldo. Pat's pretty legendary himself. He does
previous guest on the pod.
Okay, good. That was probably very entertaining. He can make you smile, no doubt. In fact, like Rich Shaywitz, the head coach up there, he played for me when we were up there. So did Ed Maddock. There were so many great players that came through that program, even though it was a non-scholarship situation. And we used to battle, Chico State Puck Smith, and we'd battle, UC Davis and Bob Williams. And, I loved all those guys. Those guys were legendary to me. One of my first jobs was to go scout Davis, and I would just sit behind the bench and I would just watch, and then Bob would be like, look up at me and be like, we going to pizza afterwards? I'd be like, let's go. It was, those guys were the best. I mean, it was such an old school group, and just really made me fall in love with the relationships that you could develop in coaching and with the players and the coaches and everybody. And so I was at Sonoma for 6 years, making very minimal money. I think first 2 years, like, here's a good story for you. Young coaches, here's a good story. First year at Sonoma State, I was working. I was up in the morning coaching guys, doing all this. And Midnight Madness rolled around, and they said, you go out front and take tickets. And so I wasn't even a part of Midnight Madness. I was the guy out front taking tickets. And I was there with another young guy who was a volunteer just like me. And he said, screw this. And he threw that down and left and said, they don't respect me. And he walked out. I stuck with it. And here I am today. And just changes, the decisions you make impact you. If you're willing to suck it up and take it, you can probably create something special. So I was there for 6 years, and then entertained a few jobs, but the one that came that I really liked was Phil Matthews at University of San Francisco. And it was just an opportunity to go out there, work on my master's, and be like, I was a third assistant. I was an ops guy. I was a grad assistant. It was back in the day, and I was barely making any money. And that was a great experience. I mean, I learned so much from Coach Matthews. And sometimes I slept on his couch, when he wasn't in the office. He had a nice couch, big screen TV. It was comfortable. I didn't really have anywhere to stay. I'd sleep in my car. I would just kind of grind it. Like, couldn't afford to live in the city. I was just trying to figure it out. I'd go up and see my girlfriend in Sonoma. But other than that, it was like sleeping there on Fulton Street, trying to figure it out, go shower, work out in the morning, and then work all day and stay later than everybody else. So it was a grind. And then my buddy Jeff Oliver, you guys all know Oliver, probably in the coaching world. Got the San Bernardino job, and from Larry Reynolds, who went on to Long Beach State, and we were all kind of from the same tree, kind of from friendship wise. And I went down there, and it was my first paid position, 7 years, and woo, party time, right? Like we got after it, and 7 years and not making any money, and then going down there making not a lot. Trust me, my first salary was, I think, 30,000, and it was like, I'm rich, I was rich, but I was coaching and doing what I loved, and then from there, just worked my way up with Jeff, and we just won and won and won and won, and we won 6 CCA titles, and I think we went to the NCAA tournament 7 times, went to a Final Four. We hung a ton of banners in that place, and we were rolling. And then there comes that point. I was there for 8 years, and there comes that point where I always wanted to be a head guy. Like associate head was great, like the winning was great, and the salary was good at that point. But I wanted to be a head guy, so I took what everyone would say was a step backwards, I guess, to go to San Francisco State, and the salary went way down, and everything went way down. There was no scholarships. We were like bottom of the league in scholarships, and Tressler had done a great job. Bill Tressler had done a great job there. I mean, that guy is brilliant. And so I took that job when he left, and I really was excited. It was a good group. It was kind of like being back in the NCAC, like with the situation where you didn't have a lot of scholarship money. You took players who people would call walk-ons, but they were just not walk-ons. They were guys that people missed on. Like I looked at them as missed-ons, like guys that were good enough to have a scholarship somewhere else, but someone didn't go to give them one, so they got the opportunity to come play for me, and we did pretty well. We did pretty well up there, and then ended up really getting that program going in, like, what year was that? 17, 18, I think, and we won 26 games. They finished the year ranked 17th in the country, I believe, and we went to the NCAA tournament for the first time in 40 years, and we had it going. We had a great group. So many great players: Coley Apps, AJ Cologne, Nick Calcaterra, Derek Brown. A lot of local guys, Israel Akeem. It was incredible. Warren Jackson. Wow, he was an All-American. It was a fun run. And then we did that, and I just got a call to come out here and be with Larry from Mike Matoso. Mike? He's out at St. Mary's, and we applied and came out and worked with Larry. Larry had some health things that we wanted to make him a winner, and came out and we got it going, and we worked together, Coach Reynolds and myself, and won 17 games and got this thing going again. And since then, I've been out here trying to build this place up and get it going, and it's been a crazy ride, but unbelievable. I think it's like 26 years and college basketball, and I don't even know. I feel like I still should be at Woodstock's having pizza with Coach Williams back in the day.
Absolutely, or the grad, right?
Yeah.
Here's what I'm interested in right off the bat, and it goes back to something you said about your entry point, selling tickets, doing ops, going and working for Phil Matthews at USF, where it was just like whatever needed to be done. And I want to say when Gus was on, and we talked about how starting at that level, almost in the mailroom, right? Or at the Division II level, where you don't have these big staffs and you're doing everything. And then you go and you end up on a staff at a school where they have more resources, and you're more siloed into a niche of like, hey, this is your responsibility. How would you say over the course of your career, starting in the mailroom per se, has helped inform your ability to navigate the myriad challenges that come with being a head coach?
Oh, without a doubt. I think it is something where if you work from the ground up, so let's say you take a non-paid position taking tickets at Midnight Madness, and then you earn $1,000 a year later, you're grateful for that. You're grateful for anything you're willing to take on. And that's what I try and teach young coaches is don't be better than anything that you're in. Be great in everything that you can get. because if you can be great, then you carve out a niche and you become valuable. And once you become valuable, now you're going to start finding that people want to keep you around, and they're going to want you there. And then you work your way up to a paid position, and now you start really going. But I think that the thing is like fundraising at our level is hard. Like, so you have to be very diverse in how you approach it. And you have to have a lot of experiences of how to communicate with different groups of people and getting involved. And that's hard. Recruiting is challenging when you have no money, no budget, like you're spending your own money to drive to see kids, and that was back at the old Sonoma State days. I mean, we would, Coach Shaywitz and myself, we'd spend hours just driving to go see kids and figuring out ways, packing peanut butter and jelly sandwiches because we didn't have a lot of money for, for food on the road or whatever it was. It was, those were the challenges, but those are the best stories you have. And those are the things that you kind of can relate to. And when you talk to like my athletes or my guys now, it helps me understand sometimes perspective, like what they're going through. Like if I have guys who aren't eating, or guys who aren't taking care of their bodies, or guys who have tough things going on at home, it gives me the ability to hopefully be able to relate, where I can understand the struggles of trying to make it and trying to work through it. And I think that gives me, I kind of got off beat there, but that kind of, all those challenges I went through to get here. Like, I'll give you a great example. USF, do you remember VHSs? We had an 8-tray. And when you played like Michigan, you had to run it off. Everybody in the country wanted that Michigan USF game. And they wanted it now. They wanted it so you would spend a night in that room just plugging tapes in, sealing envelopes. I mean, this is way before computer technology. Plug, play. And it took 2 hours. It'd have to run. You pull them out, you shove them in. And while you're doing that, as you're working on your mail outs for your 2001 recruiting class, because you got to have those ready for coach, and which guys get in what. And you're just, oh, wait, I got to write a paper. Oh, wait, this guy needs to work out. Oh, wait, this guy needs to do this. And you just learn to figure out how to manage your time and what's important and what's not important. And I think that's the biggest part of putting a scale together of how to handle the priorities. Yeah. If you don't get Michigan film out, your ass is going to be chewed. Yeah. If you don't call that recruit, your boss is going to kick your ass. Yeah. All those things.
Yeah. Well, I think it's interesting you mentioned that, because if you remember, in Hickey, gym next to the office was my office, which was just tapes stacked to the ceiling of film exchange, and then making clip tapes for games where you have the 2 VCRs. Oh, yeah. And now you got modern technology like Synergy or VidSwap or Huddle that it does it all for you. Right. These young bucks don't know what, it's like even before our time, the reel-to-reel that the coaches had to use to watch.
Oh,
right?
Yeah.
Let me follow up on this, because you have done so many things, and given your background and your prep of being an ops guy, being an assistant, being an associate head coach, even with all that experience working for the people that you worked for, which, were some elite names in the business, what did you realize right away when you became a head coach for the first time that you still needed to figure out, even though you'd been prepared?
I'm still figuring stuff out. Like I don't have any answer. Like, I think I have answers, but I think they're all so different, and they all had such commanding personalities. If you think about it, Coach Matthews, Coach Oliver, Coach Fiscaldo, they're also strong. And Coach Williams and all those guys, they, and they're strong differently. Like that, but the theme is strong. You know what I mean? And they're not afraid to make hard decisions. Every one of them would always tell me, slide 4 feet over, it gets a lot harder. Mm-hmm. Once you slide over, and when you're an assistant, you always think, it's not that hard. It's not that hard. As an assistant. And, I'll tell you right now, I'm 12 years in a head coach. It's hard. Mm-hmm. Making those decisions that impact your team, every guy on your team, the decisions that impact the kids, the young players, every one of those, that you feel that. Mm-hmm. And I think that those guys, I learned one of the most dominant things from them was, that you're going to have to make decisions and you can't please everybody, mm-hmm. but you got to do what's best for the group. And mm-hmm. I think that's one of them. And then on the basketball court, We used to talk a lot about, and this came from Jeff mostly, but Phil was right in that line too, Coach Matthews, defense wins championships. If you can defend, and everyone wants to see the buckets, everyone wants to see you score. I love scoring. And by the way, this year I focused more offensively than I ever have, so we're going to be horrible. But like no, I'm joking. But last year, like we finished 7th in the country in points allowed. And like we locked up. We had a bunch of freshmen, bunch of young guys, and we locked up. And I love teaching defense, like because I feel like you can really impact it. And that back then was defense wins championship, defense wins championship. But you got to score to create that energy too. And I don't know. I think that I learned that you got to sit down and lock up when you got to be able to lock up. You got to be able to sit down, because if you can sit down, then you're in every game. That's the old Pomona adage. Greg Kamansky, sit down. We're going to hold you. First 1 to 60 wins, or 52, or whatever that low number is.
So yes, first 1 to 60 wins. I like to take the opposite of that, and first 1 to 100 wins, and joke that teams that play that way are out there trying to bore you to death. But either way, right? Everybody's got their style. So what I'm curious about, and I usually keep this super conceptual, but I want to kind of dig in on a few things just because I think you have a ton to offer on this. But if we talk about team management and personnel management, because at your level, I got to imagine that it's hard to develop consistency in regards to a recruiting philosophy, right? In regards to like Greg at Chico has kind of settled in, and he's going to get freshmen, redshirt him, do what we used to do at Davis, but he's going to backfill with JC guys. I think you're, year to year trying to figure it out, whether you're at San Francisco State, whether you're at Stan State. And what I'm curious about is, in your 12 years as a head coach, your 26 years doing this, can you offer a few of the best things that you do in regards to personnel management, team management, to build a cohesive group? And what I mean by that is, how do you do role definition? How do you hold kids accountable for certain things? What are the non-negotiables? Because you mentioned you got to do what's best for the group, but I also know you as a person where you care deeply about each of the individuals. And so how are you creating meaningful roles for these guys to get them to buy in to the greater good? So long-winded preface of, what are some of the things that you find yourself talking about a lot with your coaching colleagues, or, some of your former players who are now coaching, when they call, where it's like, boom, 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 these are the things that you always have to be aware of?
Awesome question. Okay. So first, you're going to have to keep me on path here, because there's so many parts to this. Okay. The first one is, first off, on recruitment. And the direction of a program and where it's going. Now, I'm gonna throw this out here. With how many Division I transfers were in the portal last year? What was it?
I believe it was like 1,300 people were in the portal, right?
Correct. We got Kobe Ordonio, but we got him at the break before, so it wasn't really, he never really went in the portal, I don't think. But the thing that when I came out here, I had a plan. So I've been out here 5 years. My initial plan was we were going to bring in the most talented guys we could bring in, because this program had won back-to-back 5 games, like in back-to-back years. So we needed to instill some life. And, because you're going to go out there on the recruiting trail trying to recruit freshmen that first year, they'd be like, what is that? You guys are horrible. Where junior college guys could impact us right away. And they sure did. We got, we made the conference tournament, I believe 2 years in a row. Basically, we were moving a little bit, and we won 17 games. And those guys kind of brought life in, those junior college guys. And then I thought we were built to really make a push. And I think we ended up finishing about 10th or 11th in the West region, at the apex of all those guys coming through with redshirting. And we fell short. We didn't get to what I would have considered to where that team's talent level. And if I asked those players, they'd probably say the same thing, where they should be. And I started trying to figure out why that was. That is 3 years ago. And I figured that I did a little, during the COVID shutdown, I did a little research on our conference, and that was with UC San Diego, Chico, Pomona, and your top 3 finishers within our conference over the last 10 years. And what you find Chico, San Diego, and Pomona. Or that generally there's an outlier that shoots up in there once every. They kind of like there was a San Bernardino year in there, and there was there was an outlier like last year. San Marcos flew up there. Hopefully, they're trying not to be an outlier. They're trying to become consistently, but generally those 3 teams were your top 3 teams every year. They were 1, 2, 3, 4, and so then I looked at their number of transfers that they were bringing in, and to freshmen and how those freshmen were coming through. And your percentages, well, San Diego got skewed later when, because if you said Oshita was a transfer, he wasn't really a transfer. He was there for like 4 years. He transferred as a freshman, but he was there for a while. So I was looking at retention and basically trying to figure out these 3 programs win. Chico redshirts everybody basically, and they develop them through, and those guys have been there, and they get that Chico thing, and Greg gets young guys, and prototype guys, long, athletic, young guys, and develops them, and they get that Pomona feel, and then San Diego gets that San Diego feel. And I was like, well, if those are your top 3 teams over the last 10 years, and they're all going freshmen, we've got to change. We got to turn. We're playing for 4th. Like I don't want to play for 4th. I want to play for 1st. Right? Like 4th. 4th doesn't get a trophy, right? Like 4th doesn't do much for you, right? I don't want all that. I want 1st.
Right.
So we started changing, and we started we have my board. We have basically with COVID, we have 2 freshmen right now, true freshmen. And then we have, because of COVID and redshirt, we have 10 sophomores. And then we have 2 juniors that are 4-year juniors or 5-year juniors. We only have 1 senior in our program. So we had to change the direction. And I will tell you, I love both directions. I do. I find that we needed some kind of investment where wearing that Stan gear, you're proud of wearing that Stan gear. Where you graduated from Davis, correct?
Better believe it. You can see it right back there in the corner, baby.
Yeah, you're an Aggie through and through.
Absolutely.
Without a doubt. And you would do anything for the Aggies. And that's an investment. And now it's harder when you pull in a bunch of junior college kids and they still rock their junior college gear, or their junior college experience was better than the one I'm giving them.
Right.
So now you're sitting there trying to break that trend, their loyalty to them. They got too many loyalties, and they're there because they expect to play and they came here to play right away. Where you can't get that patience factor.
Right.
You can't get that investment factor. You can't, if they don't play, they transfer.
Yep.
But if a freshman doesn't play, that's expected.
Right.
If a sophomore still trying to work his way up, that's expected. And now you're invested in the university, you're invested in the school, and you're invested in what we're doing. So many different experiences having young guys. You're more of I'm not trying to be a father figure. I'm trying to be a mentor. Right. And I'm trying to be there to help them, because they're 18 to 20 years old to, if they need me, I'm there. You're on the side of the road, I'm coming, because I'm hopefully taking some of that pressure off their family when they're away, so I can look after their kids. Where junior college kids don't need that. They kind of come in, I'm a grown man. Coach, I'm a grown man. Well, grown man pay their bills. But so it's a different kid. And I was looking I don't want to finish 4th. I want to break through. Right. And I think we're close. I mean, no bullshit. I think we're close. Like, we got some great guys, and I really like this group. And they're all sophomores. It's special. But okay, so that's the recruiting side of things.
Where you've shifted, right? Because at San Bernardino, y'all were all about let's take whoever wants to come in.
Let's go get the best. San Bernardino was, we were going to get the best available, regardless of all the issues, and we're going to work through it. And we're going to find 6 dudes, and we're going to be better than you. Our 6 is going to be better than your whole culture, whatever that is.
Right.
And it worked. But then what happened was everybody got money. Once everybody got money, and now everybody started transferring.
Yep.
So now everybody's kind of got some good players and everybody's got talent now, and it diluted the pool of greatness. Remember, it was Bakersfield and us.
Yep.
And then Bakersfield went D1, and then we jumped in, and then we took over all those guys. And Dominguez sniffed it a little bit with, and then it was kind of like there's upset. But now everybody gets transfers.
Right. So now you got to switch and go back to the freshman approach or the young kid approach. Okay. So there's compiling your roster and where you're at. Now what comes after that?
Okay. Now these role definitions, like you're talking about, are going to be really challenging this year. It's going to be really challenging because we have so many guys. We return basically 5 starters. So, but all my younger guys work their ass off and are going to really push that. They're going to push that envelope. So we're going to be, I have to make sure I'm committed to playing lots of guys early so that everyone gets an experience to see where we're at. I have to commit to that because especially in our non-conference, sometimes we get so caught up in the immediate victory. That immediate victory can hurt you in the long haul if you're not playing, if you're not giving guys opportunities. So that's one. So we really got to make an emphasis, and we talk about that as a staff. Like, hey, make sure you keep me in the loop. Tell me what's going on the bench. Talk to me about, the culture, the core, the values are going on, what's being said behind me, like of where we're at, because I got to make sure I'm aware of guys getting an opportunity this year. That's one. I also cannot get fixated, and I question myself all the time on playing your high level guys 35 minutes, especially early. You get stuck. Like, I got to win. And you put your point guards out there for 35 minutes and you're like, oh man, like how'd that happen? Even though they want to, but you got to make a little more sacrifice. So that's one thing we do. Other things so then we really have to be conscious of that. On the court, we play a lot of 2-dribble. We play a lot of 2-dribble games. I cannot stand the bang bang game, like where everyone calls the on ball, especially in open gym. So we really try and get everybody involved. We'll play games where 2 dribbles means you got to pass. Like you got to move the ball. Then you got to use your dribbles to go attack. So we do that a lot to make sure everyone's getting involved. But as far as like team discipline and stuff like that, so we have a lot of variables that we use for that. So like in season, okay, let's start conditioning. If one guy's late, we're all late right now. So so one guy's late, we're all late. We're going to run. We're going to use a little peer pressure. Now, I don't like to use that in season because I don't want to hurt opportunities for victory. So I don't want to take a guy who, let's say a guy's late and then he's late in season, right? I don't want to punish our team by not giving us a chance to win.
Right.
So I'll punish in season. I'll change and they know that we'll change to now you're going to run. But like this time of year, one guy's late, we're all late. We'll run. Now, if you're late twice, right, then we're going to run and then you're going to run. And then if you're late 3 times, then we're going to sit down in my office and we're going to talk about your future. Because like what kind of commitment you have to this and where we're going. So that's one way. And I try and be as consistent as possible with those kind of things. And I think that's the most important thing. Like we talk a lot about communication and opening up and where, like, I'll give you an example. Let's say you're coming to practice and your car won't start, right? It could happen. It could happen to me. It could happen to anybody, right? So your first thing you have to do is you have to call me. You have to call me. First thing you have to communicate. You have to be like, Coach, my car won't start, right? And then that won't get you out of the conditioning, but it gives us a reason. Like I could change the conditioning,
right?
Like it's like if I worked for you and I was coming to work and my car won't start, I can't just not show up. I won't have a job much longer,
right? So
that. We want to make sure that, I can call you and be like, oh, hey, my car's struggling. You'd be like, Trev. And then if it happened again, you'd be like, Trev, time to either take the bus or figure out another way to get to work.
Yep.
Because as much as, we talk about family and we talk about it is a job. And we talk a little bit about, I love the term family, but it's not really family because I'm not going to disown my daughter.
Right.
Right. But like, but I'm not going to disown you, but I'm not going to keep you in my family if you're negative to the other 12 people in my family.
Right. Well, the way that I think I've best heard that concept articulated was from our president at one point, where our love for our students and athletes is very conditional, whereas that which is for your family is generally unconditional. And in regards to that, meaning, look, I'm always going to love you as my athlete, but there are things that you can do that will ultimately undermine that and cause us to have to break up, versus
Right.
when they are blood, it's a little bit different deal, right? Because you have a responsibility to them that goes beyond whatever contractual relationship you've entered.
Right. Right. I love the way that's said. It, you know, like, and they guys come together, they say family, and it's like, yeah, sure, you can say it.
Mm-hmm.
But when you turn on the family,
Mm-hmm.
like, and you turn and you don't follow the rules of this family,
Right.
there's a lot more, you know, I can't keep you in the fammy.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
So I find that like those are consistency, communication, same concepts as parenting.
Yeah.
Those are the ways to do it. I think I am still the biggest concern, and this is something that when we talked about earlier, where Jeff was so good at and Phil was so good at, is they are able to narrow down the rotations
Mm-hmm.
to where, like we talk about playoff rotations or end of the year rotations, where you get down to about 8 to 9 guys. How do you get to that point?
Right.
And I have such a compassionate side sometimes, where I want to keep giving guys opportunity, but it hurts the team.
Mm-hmm.
And I have to get past that side, because in the end, the guys are here to win and roles get defined, right?
So let's talk about that for a second, since
Okay.
that's an area that you're calling an area of growth, right? So we talked about how Rich and I talk every week, and I ask questions and we bounce stuff back and forth. And what I would ask him in that situation, or I'll ask you, is, okay, if that's a struggle for you, what are the current systems you're using to evaluate your athletes and their contributions? What are you doing to source information directly from them, right? So like,
Right.
we traditionally, before we even play a game, we'll have them, I'll give them a sheet with everybody's name and say, write down how many minutes everybody should play. And, and they do that. And it's like, okay, you have to now take away 100 because there's only 160 in the game and you have handed out 260 minutes, right? Or a sheet that I got from Coach Williams that I've modified over the years, right? That I think he got from Dunlap. That's just like, okay, what is your role? Who do you want playing with you? Who are the best 5 guys, right? So the question is now, Coach, what are you doing to not just be the gut feel guy, but clearly articulate to your kids during their role definition? It's like, here's where you can be great.
Right.
Here is where you need to work in the off season to have a bigger role. And here's where we are at this point, 10 games in, and why now your minutes are going to be reduced.
Right. So one thing, I believe it was a Dunlap thing, and we took it from when we were at San Bernardino's, we do what we call competition points. So like, we compete at everything we do, and we chart it and we put it up in our team room. And so you basically find out, and especially when they play, they're recording victories when they play. So as your teams move and switch, your role switches with your teams. And you'll find that during that time, guys will elevate themselves and they'll always be on top. So like, let's say you have a guy who's a really, like your point guard, like our point guard. Our point guard is tops in our championship points. It's him, it's Kobe Ordonio, and this kid named Trevion Williams. And they're the top 3. And doesn't matter who I put them with, and I can put them on 3 different teams and it gets wild. But anytime they're together or close, they just run off wins. They just run off wins. And we talk a lot about why. Now, what I mean by that is that we have a freshman from Sacramento who doesn't hurt his group. He doesn't take bad shots. He just defends. He rebounds. He doesn't do too much. He understands that he's there just to be a piece. And his teams find ways to win. He just gets in with groups and he just rolls along and does his part, defends and rebounds. And that's required for all of us, but he does it good and he doesn't take bad shots. But then I have some other guys who feel like they want to shoot themselves to save their role. Like they shoot and they can't find wins. They can't find wins. Like they're at the bottom, like third year sophomore sitting there at the bottom with 4 wins. And we got guys with 55 wins. Mm-hmm. And, and we talk a lot, like, come on in, like, coach, I can't win. Well, yeah, you can't win. You're the weak link. Mm-hmm. Like, not in a bad way, but like you're the guy that trying to shoot him out instead of just playing your role. Mm-hmm.
That goes back to the question, right? What role are you playing in the outcome that you are hoping to achieve? And right. If they are playing a role that does not fit what they can do,
right,
you have a negative consequence.
Right. Yeah. And so we have some guys who want to work on their threes. They want to shoot the three and they want to, they are open for a reason. It's one of those where we're open for a reason. And, they shoot it and the other team goes transition. We play like games to 5 or 3 and it's stop and you're done. You're off again. You're off again. Oh, what? I lost him. Well, no, you lost because you shoot shit shots.
Right.
You lost because you make bad decisions.
Yeah.
And then I'll cite it. I'll be like, Jordan is redshirting. This guy's redshirting, but he doesn't hurt his team, and he's way ahead of you in the winning point. So everybody's got their role, and I'll talk about it. Like when we're talking about 2 dribble game, right? Mm-hmm. I'll talk to Kobe, and I'll talk to Tony, and I'll talk to my jet guards, and I'll be like, you're going to play within 2, but when we start, you guys can play with more because they're better. They're quicker. They're Dante Ross. They can get in there. They can go. God, I dropped such old names. I know, like
I love hearing it though.
So I dropped such weird names, but there's other guys who I don't want them taken. Keep it simple, right? Mm-hmm. So we spend a lot of time.
So let me interrupt, Coach, because I want to get to the minutia of this as you can help young coaches. And this is something that Rich will tell you, no matter what conversation we're having, I'm always coming back to role definition.
Okay.
How tightly do you define roles? And so, example that I got from Coach Katz years ago regarding rebounding, where he's like, I line them up on the baseline and I tell them, go, get back, go, get back, go.
I did that this year.
And I'll line guys up offensively, and it's like, you're a shooter, you're a driver, you're a combo guy, you're a ball changer. Coach, what's a ball changer? That means you pass it from one guy to another.
Springer, yeah.
What does that mean? Like, I can't shoot? No, every time you get an offensive rebound, every time that guy shoots, it's a pass to you. If you're wide open by yourself under the basket, you can shoot it.
No.
How tightly do you define roles, and what have you learned over 26 years in relation to the impact that has on winning?
Okay, great. Here, tighten it up then. I did that rebounding thing with all my guys. Safety, glass. Safety, glass. Coach, I have a coach that monitors safety, glass, safety, glass, safety, glass. And sometimes you'll have 4 glass, 1 safety, or you might
5-0.
5-0. Yeah. So that's fine. I'm willing to deal with that as long as we have clear roles on that. Mm-hmm. I spend a lot of time individually talking to guys about how they can be successful. Mm-hmm. So, 6'7" guy can really one bounce pull up, or he can, defend, rebound, swing the ball, come off and get your feet down, target, 1 dribble, play in your box, play in your box. And then when your box, if you're good in that box, then we can stretch that box. And we talk individually a lot about that. We have, what I have not done, but what I will do is we have guards that can flat out go. So we have to let them go. And those have to be assigned where other guys on the team have to know that those guys are going to go.
Correct.
And otherwise it becomes selfish. They need to know that I'm letting them go.
Right.
And that is what right now we're still identifying that, but it's coming.
But which means then it can't just be individual conversations. You got to say it in front of the whole team and line guys up and then tell them, yo, fair is not equal. Like some guys can do more than other guys.
For sure. And I think that, as a coach, sometimes we hope that those roles come out, and they usually do. But you can get it way quicker if you just assign it, if you already know.
Yeah,
I
absolutely.
think so. I think that's kind of like the pull the Band-Aid off theory, right? You're saying, how do we educate young coaches? And that's one of the things that I've struggled with. I've usually that's why we're always better late.
Mm-hmm.
I let the roles, I give everybody this open kind of
Mm-hmm.
and I do a lot individually, but I think it's better if you just pull the Band-Aid off. Let like these guys are going to go, or if it's a big, we're going to get him the ball here
Mm-hmm.
every time, and we're going to pound it into him. We're going to play off him. Like we did that when we had Vita Fennell. Like he was dominant down there. We just dump it in and cut through and let him go.
Yep.
You know?
Well, to your point, I don't think there's anything wrong with letting them play and figure it out and all of that. But I would also say in the high school game, you basically have November, and then after that, you're playing games the rest of the year. And I liken it when I tell my kids this. It's like, but coach, I can do X, Y, and Z. It's like, yo, the whatever, the hay's in the barn at this point.
Right.
We're going to go play golf and you can't hit your driver and you're going to pull it out on the first tee and be like, no, I'm going to learn to hit it right now. It's like, no, that was March until November. Like we have established now what you can do. And in your game, you guys can kind of go year round, right? They've had an opportunity to prove to a certain extent to their teammates what they're capable of. Right. And at some point it's like, yeah, you need to excel in the role I'm giving you and train for the one you want. But if you start trying to play the role you want, it's going to hurt us. So no.
So I agree with that. So, but this can also backfire on you too. So for example, like last year, when I assumed certain roles would be taken by guys and I gave them those roles, I had to watch them fail at those roles. And they failed and we suffered. We suffered because guys couldn't take the role that I had given them. And like we were watching guys shoot that were supposed to be able to shoot that couldn't shoot or make decisions that, and we lost a lot of games early last year because of that reason. And so as I gave them a role and they failed at the role had to change.
For sure. Right.
Yeah. And so just like it could change the other way. Just like if you can play in that box and you can make that box great, and then you earn minutes because you play that way, then your role, you know what? Maybe then I'll let you shoot that open 3.
Yep, exactly. Well, that's again where the way in which to figure out how to involve everyone, and we just were talking about TB earlier and him coming up. It was like his role in high school was like, you get 1-3 a game. If it goes in, you can shoot another one. If not, don't shoot anymore. And that's the clarity from which he and other players like him were able to evolve their game, because it was like, well, how do I impact the game? The way you said your freshman's doing, right? Well, I can defend, I can rebound, I can lead, because you know what? I'm not in a place where I'm going to be consistent there. Let me pivot to something else here, because I want to make sure we get this in before we run out of time. And I don't know the landscape of all of the sports offerings at Stanislaus or at San Francisco or at San Bernie, where you were the last 3 stops. But I'm always curious what people learn intentionally watching other disciplines. So if you threw basketball out the window and you went and watched your volleyball team practice, what have you been able to take over the years from non-basketball disciplines that you've applied to your coaching?
That's awesome. So one of the reasons why I like Stan so much and why I came out here is we have great coaches across the board. Like guys that are, and women that are really driven, like that really know what they're doing. And, like our women's soccer program has been exceptional. And our volleyball program, we just hired a new volleyball coach, which I will say was really interesting because we share the gym, a lot, like we're going in and out. One of the things she does and she took was she has the same warm up every day. So the terminology is the same. They go from this warm up to a competition to this. And it's really just a terminology warm up. Of what they do, but they do it every day. And I think that's awesome. We do that too, but we have like 3 of them. So we have 3 warm-ups, that review our terminology with also our scheming. So I find that actually it's almost like doing the same thing every day. So it becomes your language. And we talk a lot about our language, in our practice, like what is your language on on balls? What's your language on this rotation? And start using our same language so that we can. And they do that. So that's where I get sidetracked, but that's what they do. They have a language warm up. Basically, through movements and competitive style. So if you came in, those girls would just go do it. They do it, and then they're ready to go. And I think that's really, really good. I think our women's soccer program is very, very organized and detailed. I think his diligence in his detail is incredible. Like if you think about a women's soccer program, how they could have up to 24 athletes or more, and his door has got, and they're right next to us. They're coming in all day, going film breakdown, like small group work, and then his work with them in the classroom is outstanding. You got to think D2. You got to think like you don't have a ton of assistants, and you don't have, and every one of his girls is coming through for their academic meeting weekly. Everyone is coming through for their film. It's like a ship. It just like they just come through, and I can think about how much time that would take. You know what I mean? Like for the 24 girls an hour each day, like that could just go on and on and on and on and on. But I really, really, really respect that. Like,
well, that's the quick math on that. That's 24 hours out of your 40-hour work week, not even counting practice, right?
Right.
So,
or preparation or anything. Like think about how many hours you're putting in, like working through, and that's incredible to me. I know they have a shorter season, but that's incredible. Like, and like our baseball coach, Kenny Leonasia out here, like he's like the legend. You never see him, he's out there on the field, he's working, because baseball, right? They're out there working on their stuff, and just the grind. And what he's really taught me is like, he's kind of taught me like, I'm not here for the BS. Like we come out, we do our job. Like he doesn't say a lot. Like I'm not here to chase my guys around. They're on time or they're not here. Like he is the true, this is the ship. You either get in line with the ship or you're not rolling on the ship. And I love that about him. Like he doesn't say a lot. He's not MFing guys. He's not crazy. Like he's straight. Like you see, like me, you can see how much he's straight looking at you, and he's just telling you how it's going to be. Yeah.
Well, and I'm sure while that may come off for some as abrasive, it also is very clear and delineated. Like this is what we're doing, and it's not complicated. It's not hard. It's not sexy. Like choose opt in or out.
Right. And it's brilliant, right? Like takes kind of, like it's not me. Because I'm kind of like that butterfly chaser, dreamer, like passionate driver, as you would call it. But it works really well for him.
Yeah. Let me follow up on this note. As you explore other ways to do things, as you're self-evaluating and thinking about different ways of doing things, both in your professional life and your personal life, what would you say is the most recent thing you've changed your mind on in regards to mindset, in regards to parenting, coaching, driving a car, whatever it might be, where it's like, I used to think this and now I'm over here and here's why. This is what changed my mind. And it doesn't have to be some transformational thing, but I think often we get tunnel vision and we get locked in and we stop thinking about different ways to evaluate the world, right? The way that the internet is set up, social media, it just pumps you full of silo thinking. So what's something that you could take a beat and think about, wow, actually, you know what? I actually just went against what I've preached my whole life, and here's why.
I got a ton of those things. First one, at San Bernardino, we were finished products. It was, I would spend a lot of times working with guys, trying to get them better, but I wasn't really getting them better. I was getting them right. I was getting them perfected. They were already pretty finished. When I went to San Francisco, I didn't get finished products. I got growth mindset guys. I read a lot of books on growth mindset, got more of a yet mentality and a much more developmental mentality, which is actually goes all the way back to my roots at Drake High School, which was, I started as a developer, went to Sonoma as a developer, went to San Bernardino as a finished product guy, and it spun me right back to where I am today as a developer. Because those are where my roots and my passion are. I love teaching basketball. I love teaching. So I've gotten more into a growth mindset. Like if a guy can't do something yet, maybe we got to fix it, and we got to try and work on it and find ways to get it done. So that's one cycle. Two, most important thing for me probably is I really grinded. I used to grind, and I love grinding, and I like what I do every day of my life. But I also learned to appreciate, don't sacrifice family for the job. When I was at San Bernardino, we went to the NCAA regional. My aunt died. She died right before we left, and I missed her funeral because of an NCAA West Regional tournament. And because I felt like the basketball was my family, and whatever that may be, it didn't. We went out, we didn't play well, and then whatever happened. But as I got back and I got older, maybe I didn't get to say everything I always wanted to say or have that moment and have complete closure with her. So when my mom and my stepdad died, I was able to make sure I made the time for those people. And I think that always try and make the time for the people that mean the most for you. You can't get it back. You can't get it back. And sometimes we get caught in our work world and we grind and we think we have so many days. And you know what? Make sure you make time for those, because those are the most important days.
Absolutely. And you know what? That's a great place to stop, because I think everybody can hear and hopefully internalize that message. I often talk to our kids about time is our most valuable asset because it's our only non-renewable resource. And if you don't realize that in the moment, then you miss out on some things. So I appreciate you coming on. Lots of wisdom to be had. Good luck this year. Thank you. Looking forward to seeing you here.
Maybe I can get you out to a game. Or does it have to be a road game out there in Monterey?
Yeah, I'll come down when you play Cal State Monterey, but I try not to leave the peninsula, Coach. I spend a lot of time in the Valley, and I live in God's country, and I try not to leave that spot.
Yeah, we would come down there and walk the dogs on the beach. It's so pretty out there. Good for you. Good for you.
All right, man.
Hey, there's my eyes. No, I'm just joking. They've been fogged up all day.
There you go.